I don't need to run for mayor to get a paycheck. Right.
Yes.
My wanting to do this is to serve the community.
That's right.
We want to bring all race, creed, and color together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was the announcement of former mayoral candidate and returning mayoral candidate Willie Wilson yesterday, who is jumping into, as we like to call it, the mayoral clown car here in Chicago. Thank you for joining me tonight for another Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Kit Cabello.
Salutations. By the way, Jerry.
Yes.
You know what? I mean, normally on Heartland's Media, I'm wearing a suit, you know, my blazer, my sports blazer jacket, you know, wearing my button-up shirt. But I got like an awesome shirt in the mail today.
Uh-oh.
Something from a guy named Pegleg. I mean, it's in our merch store. It looks pretty cool. So I think it's pretty awesome. So, you know, if you don't know about the merch store for Chicago Corner, you should check it out because this shirt is very comfortable.
I think we should introduce the designer of that shirt as well, our fellow co-host, Mr. Ed Heller.
Oh, Ed's not here right now. I heard my name. And somehow I appeared here again. Are you guys hawking T-shirts?
This is why I'm breaking this out early.
Yeah. So the thing is, we actually, you know, I'm wearing this awesome shirt, and you know what, Pegleg? Yeah, I saw Betsy, and she actually hoof delivered it to me. She hoof delivered it to me, and basically I was like, okay, thank you, Ghost Cow, for giving me this awesome shirt. And to which Betsy said, yeah, in this economy, everybody's working, even the dead.
Yeah, she's confirming that for sure. That's a great shirt. Could you show us that shirt again? That was pretty cool. What's it say?
So.
It says, I swear on the ghost of Pegleg Sullivan that chocolate cows exist. Where did you think chocolate milk comes from?
No, yeah.
Oh, no. Who's that? Oh,
Lightfoot.
She's getting closer.
She needs to go away.
No, run! I think that's my cue to leave.
Anyways, so there's a lot to talk about. And by the way, there is that cool cat Oreo who's in the house as well. The official producer of Chicago Corner. I see his head right over there in the corner right there. So shout out.
He's in the corner
Oreo.
now.
So there we go. All right.
I do believe he approves of the T-shirts also. Although I think we need to like create something in the merch store featuring him too at some point, since he is the producer and mascot of Chicago Corner.
Oh yeah, I think an Oreo shirt would be pretty sweet.
That'd be cool. What do you think, buddy? I think he agrees.
Put him on a mug, a flavor improving Oreo mug.
Definitely.
Yes, there we go. Oreo for.
Well, we might get sued though. I don't know.
By who? By Oreo?
By that cookie company that likes to dip things into beverages.
Oh, that's true. So I guess Oreo is a trademark. I guess that name didn't exist before they took it on for their cookies.
Well, we could call him Oreo the web streaming cat or something like that.
All right.
That would probably make us golden for the merch store. Which you can find a link for in the show notes below, I think.
Definitely.
Yes. And to which
or in the video below.
That I see a Kit Kat. There you go.
We could do a double merch thing where it's one photo of Kit and one photo of Oreo, and it says Kit and Cat.
Can we get to the news?
Yes. All right. Enough waffle.
Willie's in the clown car officially.
All right, Jerry, take it away. Jerry,
all right, that's okay. Did you guys catch any of the news coverage yesterday?
Yes, I did. And here's the thing:
I have video. Let me run the video from the press. From the press.
Run the video first.
Yeah, because there's some points he brings up that, as much as I'm, very open-minded about other candidates, he says something towards the end of it that it's just like, I'll point that out after we listen to the actual actual news coverage. And this comes to us.
Media, you all wouldn't all be here as I wasn't a threat.
You all asked.
We're going to win it this time.
Wilson, a well-known philanthropist, gained headlines recently by giving away more than $1 million in free gas, but he says that was unrelated to today's announcement. The perennial candidate, who garnered more than 10% of the vote in 2019, expressed regrets about voting for Lori Lightfoot in the runoff that year.
We all
I made a
did.
mistake. I made a hell of a mistake. I made a mistake, and I have to say that because I've been very disappointed.
Mayor
It's okay, Willie. We all are.
Lori Lightfoot at an event announcing a summer jobs program, dismissing the criticism.
I'll just say this, look, it's that season. People are going to jump in. People are going to try to distinguish themselves. But what I'm going to do every single day is focus on doing the job that the people elected me to do.
Lightfoot has not formally announced her re-election plans, but sounding more like a candidate, took a swipe at Wilson for his high-profile charity work.
You judge people by what they do when people aren't looking, not by what they do when they see the spotlight.
Okay, so is that why Lori had to rip off his idea and announce the gift cards a week later?
No!
Your mic's cutting out.
Hold on, Jerry. I'm sorry. Edward, Jerry, give me a minute here. So first of all, the audacity of Mayor Lori Lightfoot to say that statement, everyone's paying attention to you when the spotlight's not on you. Are you kidding me, Lori Lightfoot? You always love to have the spotlight on you. You always want to have the attention. That's why you click, copy, and paste what, again, Willie Wilson did. Now, I'm not saying Willie Wilson is a saint or this angel. I'm not. But God damn it, Lori Lightfoot, you ran on a progressive policy to help out the working class citizens in Chicago. The schools are still being underfunded. There's still lead in our drinking water. Gentrification is still happening. And then you have the audacity to say, look, and again, she's calling out Willie Wilson. Fine, you can do that. But God damn it, she loves the spotlight. She is not some better or lesser evil. In all honesty, after all the programming we've done here at Chicago Corner, even before Jerry and Edward even joined Chicago Corner, or even before Chicago Corner became its own YouTube channel when it was part of Hardlands Media, we saw firsthand the fall of Lori Lightfoot, that she was another corrupt neoliberal Democrat. This person, again, I dread to think who her replacement is, but if she were to get reelected, we're going to see her ego grow larger than the size of the galaxy of the universe, okay? We cannot afford to have Lori Lightfoot. This person is a clown, a fraud, an egomaniac, and someone who clearly has a problem of being told really what to do. See, the thing is, she's putting in her administration and also in key positions people who don't live in the city of Chicago. She doesn't care about Chicago. She only cares about her image and, again, how people perceive her. She's an egomaniac and a narcissist of the highest order. Sorry, that's my rant.
What makes you think she just loves the attention, Kit? All right, let's go back to the report. Thank you for that editorial. Yes, it is clear. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you back the video up about 10 seconds? I want to hear that last part again.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious. Well, Kit said it all. It's hilarious how she talks about. She doesn't want to get the attention when she's clearly pissed off. Willie stole the attention, which is why she decided to announce the gas cards and all the other little free giveaways without actually running them by city council a week and a half later.
And again, to be fair, let's play this video in its full entirety, and then we'll.
All right. Let me rewind it. We'll get back to what she says.
Charity work.
You judge people by what they do when people aren't looking.
When people aren't looking.
Not by what they do when they see the spotlight on them.
Wilson's mayor.
Is that what you wanted me to pause on, Ed?
That was the thing I wanted. I'm like, yeah, all the things you're doing when you think people aren't looking. But then we start covering it on Chicago Corner, which is why you guys should tune in every week and watch us, because it's things like it's like these underhanded casino deals they're trying to shove through. It's like when she decides she's going to pay overtime to the CPD out of COVID funds instead of sending that money out for relief.
By the way, Ed, did you hear? I mean, not that it really hits us, but they just uncovered that they did the same thing in Los Angeles. They gave away the COVID funds to cover police overtime out there.
Yeah. Jimmy Dore talked about it too.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out again to Jimmy Dore, Chicago's very own.
Let me continue with the report, though, to get to the stuff that Willie says at the end of his press conference.
The announcement comes after Alderman Ray Lopez jumped into the race last week. Chicago police officer Frederick Collins was the first to launch his candidacy in February. Wilson says battling crime will be the focus of his campaign, recent CTA attacks top of mind.
People robbing people on CTA. You got to bring back police officers on these CTA.
Wilson said one person cannot fix all of Chicago's problems, but he said he'll collaborate with people to address things like crime and education. He says his lack of political experience is not an issue because his business background will help him lead the city.
Oh, okay.
That trope again.
Okay, so that's my problem. Okay, yes, we have to be fiscally responsible and balance the city's budget. But anytime I hear a politician rest on their "I'm a businessman" laurels to run any kind of civic government is not a profit-generating entity. Government is supposed to serve the public. So anytime we saw this with Trump, he was a businessman. He knew how to do things. No, government is not meant to derive a profit the way that business is. And, you know, as much as I give Willie a good benefit of the doubt because I think his heart's in the right place, that's the shit that scares me.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. Chicago does not need someone to think that, okay, here's the thing. The corporations and top 1% control our politicians. Let's face it. The businesses have all the privileges of being first in line. And we've seen this firsthand with all the large real estate developers gentrifying the south side, west side, and even now on the north side of Chicago. It is becoming a serious problem. And when you have corporations controlling politicians, you have a businessman coming in. What's the difference? What are you going to do that's going to help out, again, people that have been living in the city of Chicago for generations? Another thing, too, that we have to look at is that, you know, okay, they brought up a couple of things that right now concern me. Recently in New York City, there was that horrifying disaster where an individual shot at civilians in a New York subway in Bronx. Innocent people got hurt, and it's a tragedy. But this whole idea of, again, relying on more policing, more, again, individuals on the subway or on the L trains, you know, the New York City mayor implemented that policy too, having more cops in the subways, but it didn't work. It didn't stop that incident. It didn't stop the person who committed that horrific crime. Now, I know there's a lot of problems in Chicago. And look, I know we put up that funny video of, hey, there's good people in Chicago. There are good people in Chicago, but we cannot afford at this point in time relying on more and more of the same, or hoping that more enforcement is going to change things. My concern with this mayoral election is that it will be a clown car. Lori Lightfoot, again, was, dare I say it, had the best campaign at this point, but I think the better candidate was Jamal Green. Now, I don't know if he's going to throw his hand in the ring.
He hasn't said anything yet. He talks about issues on social media, and he's alluded to the fact people are waiting for him to look. Maybe he's waiting for the other clowns to pile in, and then he's going to stand outside that car and say, hey, I'm throwing my hat in, and I've got the solutions. I don't know.
I hope so, but so what I'm looking at, I'm not impressed. But then again, too, I had to think, if we get Lori Lightfoot reelected again, the city is going to be in a horrible spot. And Willie Wilson admitted something that's very true. He made a mistake with Lightfoot. Now, again, when we look at Prettwinkle and Lightfoot, who are the better choices?
It's like Democrats and Republicans. It would have been a duopoly. It's the same.
It would have been a duopoly.
They both would have been as bad as the other. That's essentially what it came down to.
Right, and but then again, too, you know, in when I interviewed Willie Wilson, and I had actually had chances to speak to him, and I had like at least an 8-minute, 10-minute interview with him way back with Harlan's Media Chicago in 2019. You know, I want to think that his heart is in the right spot, that maybe he cares about the citizens of Chicago. But unless you're willing to confront the corruption and the Democratic machine, I don't know who we can have that can really help out the citizens, because I think this gentrification is going to continue on. The crime is going to continue on. The political corruption, the police corruption will continue on. And we're going to see more and more people leave this city. And I don't want to see that happen. Chicago is filled with good people. I believe that. I truly do.
Chicago isn't beyond saving. Give me more time. There are good people here. Where's our Bruce Wayne, Kit?
We're running out of time.
You know, and let's also be clear. Thankfully, Willie's not part of that machine, so he's
not part of that machine. But
he's
remember,
but the inexperience. Yeah, go ahead.
He was fundamental on the south side and the west side for him getting votes for Lightfoot. So he has a political machine. He has influence. Yes, he has money behind him. So, okay, Willie Wilson has this. So, Willie Wilson, what are you going to do to stop the gentrification? Willie Wilson, what are you going to do to ensure that the people of Chicago remain in Chicago? Because the beating heart of Chicago isn't some corporation or some business. It's the people that have been living here for generations that have built the city up from the bottom up. Not some politician, not some dynastic family, and not some goddamn billionaire. It's always and always will be the people that build the cities, their towns, their homes. So what are you going to do? Yes, yeah, and look, we've all had fun making fun of Willie Wilson or making fun of some of the statements he's made. But unless he's going to do something to really contribute to Chicago, you need to boot up and suit up and show us what you're going to do. Come here on Chicago Corner. Tell us what you're going to do. Don't just mumble. Don't just say anything funny. Tell us what you're going to do. Because all Chicagoans in this city that has a history of being hyper-segregated has been heavily divided and has been ignored by our politicians. What are you going to do to help us out?
I just pulled something up from Jamal Green's Twitter feed. I'm going to see if I can bring it up full screen and listen from the beginning, because as we're talking about these candidates and our wishes that this gentleman will toss his hat in the ring. Let me see what we can watch here.
This named Jamal Green. I'm grateful that he got our back.
Now, this was organized by former mayoral candidate and current community activist Jamal Green. Kanye West also making a brief appearance.
We walking past boarded up schools, boarded up houses. They knock it down with red X's with no plan to redevelop. Mental health facilities shut down. The unemployment rate is the highest in Chicago than it is around the country. When you want to talk about violence, you got to talk about the economics, not police.
I grew up in Inglewood and Gresham, where so many people that I've known have been shot. Many have been killed, and I watched so many people that were in poverty, barely making ends meet. I always said, if I survive, I wanted to leave. But as I got older, I saw that I was given a gift to be able to help change these communities, and I should stay so that the next generation of kids don't have to grow up like I did.
We all as a community cannot do this alone and protect our young people. And that's why we're stepping up today to say we need our leaders to act now.
Members of the group plan to stay at the site for several days, holding a congress.
The community activist is offering a helping hand. In less than a week, we raised over $225,000 to help small businesses.
Well-known community activist Jamal Green, he is talking about what Chase has done for the Black and brown communities here on the south and west sides of Chicago. Green cited a WBEZ story that reported Chase handed out $7.5 billion in home loans during a 6-year period, but only 1.9% went to Chicago's Black neighborhoods.
This is our money. We're asking for our money. We put billions of dollars in this bank. Now, the new announcement is that Chase was unleashing $30 billion to improve racial equity around America, but the only target for Chicago, we get $1 billion, $600 million. Yeah, $1 billion, right? $600 million in home loans for the next 5 years they have to put out, as well as 8,000.
Okay, so look, that wasn't planned. I actually, as we were talking about Jamal, I hadn't planned on bringing him up, But as we're talking, that's leadership. That's
It's
leadership.
more than leadership. It's way more than leadership. What
More
it is,
leadership.
What it is, it shows someone who cares about Chicago. Look, we all seen the propaganda. On
Now, Kit, can I interrupt you also? Someone who is also clearly on the ground with others that are struggling, unlike Willie Wilson. I don't want to diminish Willie Wilson's achievements and the fact that he's a successful businessman, but he's also a millionaire. And while I do believe, maybe even more, I do believe that his heart's in the right place helping people. When you're talking about an activist on the ground living in the same communities that is proposed and actually presenting solutions to people, maybe we have to initiate a draft Jamal campaign over here at Chicago Corner. I don't know.
Or draft Jamal into Willie's campaign so he can guide him a little bit.
That too.
You know, in some kind of partnership between those two would be extremely helpful for the city, I think.
Yeah, I agree, Ed.
All right, so here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but when I look at Jamal Green, all I can think is he's on the ground, he's leading people, he's speaking about issues that's impacting the South and West Side communities in Chicago, even on the North Side too. He's talking about communities all across Chicago. He's talking about helping out the city, a city that's been neglected by this mayor and previous other mayors. He has lived firsthand in regards to what is happening on the South Side of Chicago. I think, yes, he has what it takes. Now, again, it's unfair for us to put our wants on somebody who hasn't made an announcement yet. And I do think that if he were to throw his hat in the ring, he would be the better of the candidates, a progressive candidate. And I know from my experience on Hardlands Media, you know, we have an audience that's burnt out by politics and electoral politics and people being associated with the Democratic Party. But I believe in Jamal Green. I've interviewed Jamal Green. I've even seen him host one of the mayoral debates when he dropped out of the race. He has remained consistent about fighting for the issues of the people. And even then, when he voted for Lightfoot, he still asked for help. And throughout this entire time for her administration, she has wrongly vilified him when he's asking for help on the South Side of Chicago, on the West Side of Chicago. We need leaders. Jamal Green is one of them. He's one of those people to put on Caesar's cloak and say, hey, follow me. I will lead the way. Be right behind me. I will be in the front lines.
I would say I think Bruce Wayne identified Chicago isn't beyond saving. Give me more time. There are good people here. I think I need to add Jamal Green on the end of that that little drop in.
Yeah.
Well, let me go through a few details that were reported by Block Club Chicago, Kelly Bauer, a little bit more than was covered in the press conference. My record proves I care about the people because I put my money where my mouth is, Wilson said. Okay. Wilson broadly said he'd reduce crime and lower taxes, criticized previous COVID-19 safety measures that temporarily closed churches, and praised the police department. He took aim at Mayor Lori Lightfoot during his announcement, saying he'd ask her not to run again if people spoke. He supported her during her 2019 mayoral race after he dropped out. The crime must stop, will stop, Wilson said. Me supporting Mayor Lightfoot, I made a mistake. I made a hell of a mistake. At another point, Wilson said Lightfoot needs to work on her communication skills. Taxes must go down as they're too high and are running Chicagoans out of the city, Wilson said. He said the city must find ways to reduce taxes and provide economic relief. Wilson also vowed to, see, here's the thing. Yeah, you can say that one of the solutions. I mean, I know that that's something that's going to come in the campaign, right? I hope. But look, this is what every candidate throws out there without actually saying, and this is how we do it. Wilson also vowed to make the city's finances more transparent with independent auditors and to better invest in Latino and Black entrepreneurs. I may not know much, but I know business, Wilson said. These taxes and stuff don't fix the problem. They would if you properly taxed LaSalle Street, penny per tax on transactions, and millionaires. Yes, thank you.
Billionaires like this other guy who you really love, Jerry, who has been screwing over people on Wall Street.
Well, who's that?
Ken dude Griffin. Named Ken, I think.
Yeah, Ken Griffin. When we talk about millionaires.
See, there's a huge difference between a millionaire and a billionaire.
Yeah.
But still, we should be taxing them more on the local level.
They enjoy
because that's a revenue source that we do need on the local level.
And they enjoy so much of what government funds, whether it's the courts, commerce, streets. When I say streets, when we're talking about like transportation of goods and stuff in commerce, billionaires or millionaires and big companies just don't feel that it's important for them to also contribute to what we call the commons. It's generally the rest of us that are paying the burden of the commons with those taxes on our shoulders. So when you diminish the taxes on the billionaires and the rich who are enjoying the same services that the rest of the taxpayers are paying for, it's really not an equal fair share contribution to society and what they're getting from it. Wilson praised the police department, saying he'd put police officers on the CTA and he'd allow police department to decide whether or not to take a shot or not.
Yeah, that last part bugs me a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wilson also criticized the state's COVID-19 safety measures that shut down church the church gatherings thing. You know what? I'm sorry. And you don't have to be religious or non-religious to like point this out. Those are literally super spreader events, or they were. And I think that they should have been, regulated as much as any other public gathering. Just because you're religious doesn't mean that suddenly you've got God protecting everybody in that event. And I do think that we saw, unfortunately, a widespread of more infections at these public events, especially religious events and church gatherings, right? It's science. It's not religion. You got to pay attention to that. There needs to be freedom of religion, he said. Well, I don't think anyone was diminishing freedom of religion. I think that people were saying science dictates that when you've got all these people together during a pandemic, it's going to spread an illness, whether you think God's going to protect you or not.
Yeah, well,
Wilson,
I think he dials that back in the next paragraph.
Yeah. Wilson was a vocal critic of that policy at the time. You should not shut down a church because of COVID-19 when you don't shut down the marijuana places, Wilson said.
Yeah, if you're going to do a lockdown, do a lockdown. But
I never heard about the marijuana places, though, Ed. I don't even know what he's talking about there. The dispensaries?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know specifically what he's talking about, but there must have been dispensaries open.
But do we really imagine that marijuana dispensaries are as crowded as a church service on Sunday or any other day of the week?
I guess it depends on how long the line is.
Okay. Well, all right. You know what? I don't imbibe, so I don't know. So I'll leave that to the expertise of you gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the purchasing process as others in the city, but I do know there's a difference between, because it's legal to consume statewide, but also you can get a medical card. They were giving people with medical cards priority, especially during the lockdown. So,
as it should be. I mean, my comment a moment ago, I don't imbibe. It's not a judgment call. I just prefer not to. It wasn't an admonishment of those that do. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, but that said, I mean, just like all the other supply chain issues that were happening, I'm sure that there was kind of a bottleneck with that at the time as well. So that could have created, crowds waiting to get their marijuana. I don't know.
Wilson lost mayoral elections in 2015 and 2019, getting less than 11% of the vote and not making it to the runoff election both times. He might have a better chance this time, given how disgusted people are with Lightfoot. He also made a failed presidential. Yeah, he also made a failed presidential bid in 2016 and a Senate bid in 2020. No matter how much money he's got, he's not really making any. Why do you guys think that is? Two mayoral bids, a Senate bid, and I understand the presidential bid, but the Senate bid and the two mayoral.
I think here's the thing. It wasn't his time, and also let's face it too. The media likes to get sound bites, and if they can make someone look like a clown, they will. But let's look at the environment now. I'm not going to use the word recession. This is a depression that we're in. We're having heavy inflation. There are ridiculous regime change wars. And I'm not talking about the one in Ukraine. I'm talking about all these ridiculous wars that the United States is in. People are being evicted from their homes. Small businesses are being shut down. We don't have mental health facilities here in the city of Chicago. We don't have Medicare for all. We don't have UBI. We don't have a Federal Jobs Guarantee Act. We don't have anything that's going to help out working class citizens. At this point, We need someone to help us out. Now, Willie Wilson did something not once but twice: give people free gas. And in this country, we built our infrastructure around oil, gas, and coal, fossil fuels, everything like that. And we don't live in a green environment. We don't have green technology. It's not becoming a thing. So the issue is, Willie Wilson helped bring relief to a lot of people in Chicago. People are going to remember that. If Willie Wilson is going to do something to help out working class citizens, even if it's a temporary relief, people remember it. That's why, again, look, I hate saying his name, but when Donald Trump, after the first stimulus check was released, he wanted to do a continuous stimulus check every single month at $1,300 up until the end of the election. Now, who put a stop to it? Was it Trump or was it the Democrats? The answer was it was the Democrats, most notably led by Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And her reason why of stopping that and putting a halt to it because she wanted to hurt Trump.
Wait, how's Nancy doing since that COVID, testing positive for COVID? I heard she recovered.
Yeah. So with looking at Nancy and everything else that the Democrats have done, we will always wonder now, from here on out, going into the future, whether Donald Trump was really sincere in doing that. Now, again, we know Donald Trump's a liar, but if he really was going to do it, I mean, hell, I think there's a lot of Americans that would have greatly appreciated that additional $1,300. Now, again, if he would have followed through with that, who knows? We will never know. In fact, I would have liked to see a follow through. If he wasn't, Democrats, perfect political ammunition to use against him. But now that will be the big question mark. Now, Willie Wilson, on the other hand, has followed up not once but twice, and now Roy Lightfoot had to click, copy, and paste what he did. So the thing is, I will not underestimate Willie Wilson. Willie Wilson's greatest enemy isn't Lori Lightfoot. It will be him and the media in regards to how they go after him. Now, I don't want a millionaire to be in charge of Chicago.
We already got one in charge of the state.
Yeah, we do. We got J.B. Pritzker.
And one before that, a Republican. It's a Republican, Democrats. You have to be a billionaire. What does that say about the separation between those that rule us and those that are like wanting?
There has to be a separation between church and state, but there also has to be separation of money and state. I want to see somebody who actually cares about Chicago. Now, Jamal Green, he would be my pick, but it's also unfair for me to enforce what I want on somebody else that hasn't made their decision yet. So ideally, I would like somebody like Jamal Green or Jamal Green himself to do so.
Yeah.
But that's not the case we're in right now. So
no, not yet. Not yet. I
will not underestimate Willie Wilson.
No, I don't either. I mean, clearly he's got, these gas giveaways and public opinion regarding him is higher than it is for Lightfoot. I didn't expect we would spend so much time on his jumping into the race since it was announced yesterday. But let me just point out two other paragraphs from this Block Club Chicago article. He said, "Did you ever read about how Abraham Lincoln ran 21 times before he became president?" Wilson joked during the announcement. "We're going to win it this time. We learned more. We're persistent." Wilson's political views and affiliations have fluctuated over the years. He's identified as a Democrat and an independent in 2020. He ran for the Senate under the Willie Wilson party. During the 2016 election, he voted for Donald Trump, though he later said he would not do so again in 2020. Wilson refused to say who he voted for in 2020 during Monday's announcement. Asked if Joe Biden is the properly elected president of the United States, he refused to say on Monday. "I've lived all my life running for office and going with what the results have came out with," Wilson said, "and I will continue to do that unless I find out for myself differently." Well, that's certainly going to be something to continue following. All right, so this next story was brought to my attention by Ed. Thank you. This has kind of been developing over the past, I want to say 6 months. I think we may have covered this story once before, and this is that the El Milagro workers here in Chicago announced wage and schedule improvements after a month of organizing, which proves, along with what we're seeing nationwide, especially in regards to Starbucks and Amazon, organizing unions works. I know that our billionaire owners of these companies are not that happy, but if there's one thing that the pandemic proved is how much our essential workers are underpaid, undervalued, and taken for granted. And I'm very, very heartened to see how organized they're becoming. And although this is not a national story, I'm glad to see it taking some root here in Chicago with these developments. And this comes to us by Madison Saavedra at Block Club Chicago. Workers at El Milagro Tortilleria are celebrating wage increases, schedule changes, and more after months of fighting for better pay and working conditions. Employees have been organizing with Aris Chicago since last summer about conditions at the tortilla company's multiple locations on the city's southwest side. In September, workers walked out for an hour to make management aware of their demands. When they tried to return, the company had locked them out of the factory, not allowing them to get their personal belongings. We did report on this. I remember those details. It was only after hours of negotiations, which included police, that the workers were allowed back into the building. A week later, workers, supporters, and local elected officials gathered to reiterate their demands, saying they needed protections after working in extreme heat, sometimes 7 days a week, and even had sexual harassment complaints ignored. El Milagro workers announced Monday victories on nearly all the issues they had been fighting for, including multiple wage increases across sites totaling approximately $1.3 million collectively, ending the 7-day work week, no longer requiring a doctor's note for one sick day. That doesn't seem unreasonable. Anti-sexual harassment training for management, air conditioning in lunchrooms, no longer requiring workers to purchase and bring their own tools, payout of unused paid sick days. It just strikes me, guys, in this day and age, why would anybody have to try to negotiate for that stuff to begin with?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
And they're not even officially a union either. They just organized, and they made some reasonable requests here.
But they should have even had to. That stuff should have been like that. That's like literally, Ed. It's like from 1920 to 2020.
Yeah,
it's like we're full circle now with worker abuses, place of employment abuses, and the fact that this stuff is not just part of standard operating procedure blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of the ones in the list you just read, like air conditioning in lunchrooms, purchasing and bringing their own tools to work at a tortilla factory. I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. We've seen this happen over and over again, not only in the United States, but in the history of the world when it comes down to empires and nations that rise and fall. There is a point where there is, again, the nation is building, and there are issues with it. But then the people rise up. The people bring up issues that are happening. Workers want to get more benefits. But then as time progresses, all the hard work that the workers fought for, that the unions fought for, is taken away from them. And we've come full circle to right back to where we were in the 1920s and the 1930s.
Guys, I understand. It seems that there's a lag with my audio. Are you still seeing that, Ed? Or
you're a lot better now.
Better now?
It's a little better.
Okay, because I closed some windows and I restarted my computer before tonight's broadcast, so I'm not sure why there was a lag, but hopefully that won't continue. I was about to ask you guys to cover for me to drop out really quickly and come back in, but I think we'll be all right. All right, so going back to the article, we're proud of what we accomplished, said Pedro Manzanares, an El Milagro. Is it El Milagro? I'm going to say El Milagro. Employee of 18 years and a worker.
It's Milagro.
Milagro? All right, I'll say Milagro then. An El Milagro employee of 18 years. I always am concerned about how I'm mispronouncing, stuff of other cultures. Of 18 years and a worker committee member in a statement. These raises are historic for El Milagro. It would have taken 5 years to earn the raises we won in a few months due to our organizing. We never could have won without being organized and united. Now, not all demands have been met, however. Workers have been pushing for Sundays off, which has yet to happen. I never had time to spend with my kids who are now grown, Manzanares said. I want them to fulfill their promise so that my coworkers with young children can have the time with their kids that I lost. They're also still demanding machine speed be reduced to prevent dangerous working conditions. Oh, my God. How unreasonable is that demand, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, the liabilities and how much money that they would save, in liability suits should be all they need to look at as far as honoring that request. Employees and committee members and committee member Olga, who declined to use her last name, said the high machine speed causes back and hand pain. We put in all our strength to work hard and keep up until we simply can't do it anymore, she said in a statement. After organizing the work stoppage and the rallies last fall, workers reported their jobs were being threatened, but Arise Worker Center Director Laura Garza said Monday no employees were reported being fired or disciplined for their organizing efforts. Okay, so it works. Organizing works. We need to see more of this across Chicago, across the nation. Again, I think one of the, as horrible as the pandemic was for the past 2 years, what did it do? It proved the importance of essential workers. And I think that it has given them the tools. And I would say also the ability or the hammer to really drive the point home that they're not going to put up with this shit anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely waking workers up, and I doubt if this will be the last like bakery or like food production operation that's going to deal with this type of situation. People should be able to go to work, do their job
safely,
have a reasonable amount of safety and security, and be paid decently, and be able to spend time with their families. Their lives should not be all about working at the factory.
Absolutely. Well said, buddy. Oh, I think we lost Kit. Maybe I'm sure he'll be back in a moment. I think that was an accident, but hopefully he'll be back on. Let me wait a moment here.
Well, if you want to dip out for a second, I could do an ad for flavor improving mugs.
Sure. Let me dip out and see if it helps my my sink also.
Chicago Corner is sponsored by Flavor Improving Mugs, the mugs that improve flavor. We now return to Chicago Corner, currently in progress.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Test. It does. I can see on my end too. This is weird. It does look like there's a little bit of a delay with my audio. Sorry, everybody. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna. There he is. We waited for you, Kit.
All right. Sorry.
That's right.
I thought I was going to weigh in, but basically, I was saying that we need individuals that will fight for the city of Chicago, and more importantly, speak up for the working class. The abuse of powers that we are seeing here is something that needs to be stopped. And more importantly, we need individuals, especially candidates in the 2023 election cycle, to represent their constituents and to fight back against those incumbents that have allowed corruption to run amok.
Well said. All right, going into our next story. I know I'm going to more controversy. I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off with my position on this. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's go to the story. All right, because what I see here is how can we squeeze more revenue out of motorists? Not how do we make bicyclists maybe be a little bit more safe instead of weaving in and out of traffic and ignoring traffic laws all the time? Because it seems the onus is always on motorists. And I get it. Motorists are in more dangerous vehicles. But when they're expected to follow the rules of the road, but bicyclists aren't, and traffic is more congested because of lanes getting diminished all over the city, I think there's two sides to this story. So let me go into the article as reported by Block Club Chicago, Melody Mercado. Could drivers in bike lanes be ticketed if they're caught on video? Two aldermen are considering it. Now, I'm not condoning that cars decide to drive into bike lanes. Please don't misconstrue what I'm about to go into here. But let me read the article, and I'm going to present an alternate article regarding bicyclists routinely ignoring traffic laws they're supposed to follow, and then we can unwrap it. And my suspicions regarding the reasons that these two aldermen are proposing this, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with virtue signaling and revenue generation. Two aldermen may be working to make it easier while ignoring revenue generation, holding bicyclists breaking the laws accountable. Two aldermen may be working to make it easier for the city to ticket people driving in bike lanes after the idea gained traction on social media last week. A video shared on Twitter by Beverly resident James Pop shows snippets of his 15-mile commute to his job in the Loop. In the 40-second clip, Pop gets clipped by one driver and cut off by another driver using the bike lane to pass several cars before merging back into traffic. That's wrong.
That's you
That's
shouldn't
wrong.
be doing that.
No, you shouldn't be doing that. The video sparked reaction from several locals calling on a handful of aldermen to take action. One poster asked who would be willing to sponsor an ordinance to ticket drivers impeding on bike lanes based on video evidence. Now, okay, Ed, granted, we agree that this is wrong, right?
Yeah, for those of you at home who are trying to picture this, when cars are trying to pass other cars by going to the bike lane, it's very much like when you're on the expressway and trying to pass on the shoulder, except there's bikes there.
But let me play devil's advocate. I'm not saying that that's an excuse or condoning what we've seen. But when you're reducing lanes and creating more congestion for how many bicyclists on the side, again, not condoning it, but I understand when you've got traffic backed up to serve a minority, how people are starting to like flip out and do the wrong thing here. That's a point that I think does need to be looked at. And you can disagree with me if you want. I'm not saying I'm right, but I do think if to play devil's advocate here, let's be honest about what some of the circumstances are here. Lanes all across the city have been congested to accommodate bike lanes, and it's created more and more traffic along every grid. Vasquez told Block Club he hasn't had a chance to speak with Riley about the idea. Riley did not respond to requests for comment on Monday. Let me see if there's some video here on the Block Club Chicago article. Let me play this here from Twitter. This is a bicyclist. That sucks.
Yeah, did you see that?
Well, that's also a one lane. Yeah.
So what happened was the passenger was getting into the back seat of that black car, and then the driver didn't see the bike coming in his blind spot and cut him off.
Yeah. That's clearly like unacceptable. That, when you ride into a bike lane, like you're riding a shoulder.
Yeah, I mean,
look at what just happened there.
Yeah,
we saw him going. I mean, now someone could be merging into the right lane, which is a bike lane, to get to that right turn lane, which is suddenly identified at the corner.
Yeah,
so
that's an
it's
issue
like
right
if
there.
you're turning right, then it's fine to get in that lane briefly, as long as you do it safely and check to make sure you're not going to hit a bicyclist to make your turn.
Right.
But that's not a lane to keep traveling forward in.
Right. Let me get back to the article here. Parking, driving, or idling in bike lanes is punishable by a $150 ticket, but drivers still do it, evidenced by the thousands of bike lane obstructions submitted in real time into a database maintained by advocacy group Bike Lane Uprising. Bike Lane Uprising. Bicyclist deaths in Chicago are on the rise. That sucks, according to state data. 9 were killed in 2020 and 10 in 2021. Almost double the annual average of 5 to 6 deaths from 2012 to 2019. Cyclists have been killed in recent months, include Ade Hogue, 32, who was riding his bike on West Grand Avenue towards Lower Lakeshore Drive when a driver hit him. Jose Velasquez, 16, who was struck by a truck driver in back of the yards in December. Gerardo Marciales, 41, who was struck by a driver and killed while riding his bike in a crosswalk across Lakeshore Drive from the Lakefront Trail in February. The Chicago Metropolitan Planning Agency also reported a more than 25% increase in the number of bicyclists and pedestrians who were seriously injured in September of 2021 compared to the same period in 2020. The whole issue is the paint isn't protection. I'm going to get squashed one of these times, Pop said. Bike advocates have long fought to get better infrastructure for cyclists and stronger enforcement of traffic laws to protect vulnerable riders. But progress has been slow. The city's Bicycle Advisory Council hasn't met in 2 years, even though it's supposed to convene 4 times annually. The meetings were a place for cyclists and safety advocates to advise city officials on topics affecting cyclists. Now,
hey, Jerry, wouldn't it be cool if the federal government would fully fund infrastructure repairs and upgrades for all the states so cities could properly revise their street plans to include plenty of space for drivers and cyclists?
What do you add, a communist expecting the government to pay for all that?
Well, they can. They got all the money they need. They don't need yours.
So here's the alternate take. And again, my covering this has nothing to do with, hey, ride in the bike lanes. Don't pay attention to bicyclists who are following the laws and hit them because you want to get somewhere faster. My talking about this story has to do with the fact that it doesn't seem that there's a similar standard applied on both sides. This comes from Streets Blog Chicago. Breaking the law. What should we do about cyclists who don't play by the rules? And I've seen these cyclists downtown just weaving in and out of traffic, not paying attention to anything. Running red lights, running green lights. It's like, why don't you guys want to hold them accountable as well? Why don't you want to fine them as well, ticket them as well? If you got these cameras all over the city, why aren't bicycles, now that they have access to public streets, license plated? Why aren't bicyclists contributing to the money that is supposed to cover that infrastructure on our public streets, that cars that have to pay for city stickers and license plates to the state do? So this came from, and I bike, everybody. Okay, so don't think I'm like an anti-bicyclist. I think bicycling is great when it's done safely. This comes from John Greenfield, and this is an article from 2019. I've been fielding a lot of complaints about law-breaking cyclists since my last reader column on the mayoral election. It mentioned Tony Preckwinkle's statement during a recent debate that many local bike riders don't pay any attention to the traffic laws, which is not only infuriating, but also scary for drivers. Recently, a Twitter user griped to me about bicyclists careening recklessly down Diversey or Belmont. Another grumbled that many cyclists are unsafe, very self-centered, all about me, and generally disrespectful. Isn't it great that motorists never act that way? In parentheses. Some bike riders make me nuts, tweeted a third person. As a cane-dependent senior, it's unnerving when a bike rider sees you step off the curb and shoots in front of you as though you're invisible. Let me start out by noting that law-breaking and or unsafe cycling is a fairly trivial issue compared to reckless, intoxicated, and distracted driving. The danger posed to others by, say, 200 pounds of bike and rider going 15 miles per hour is insignificant compared to 2 tons of motor vehicle doing 30 miles per hour or more, unless that 200 pounds of bike and rider deciding to break a safety rule and blow through a red light causes a pileup of a bunch of cars that had the green. I would just throw in there.
And 200 pounds of bike and rider impacting a pedestrian is still dangerous as heck and probably fatal.
I found no record of anyone ever being fatally struck by a bike rider in Chicago, whereas drivers killed 132 people in our city in 2017.
I should have said potentially fatal.
Potentially. That said, hazardous and obnoxious cycling is a thing. People on bikes have the potential to act like fools and jerks, just like any other kind of road user, even if they're exponentially less dangerous than their motoring counterparts. So I'd like to throw a bone to there's a lot of reckless bikers crowd with a look at Chicago should do about bicyclists who break traffic rules. Let's classify law-breaking cyclists into 3 categories. Technically illegal but widespread and relatively harmless behavior. This includes slow, cautious riding for short distances or sidewalks or against traffic on side streets. Another example, the Idaho stop. Cyclists treating stoplights like stop signs and stop signs like yield signs, so-called because it's legal in the gem state. Number 2.
And yield signs like potatoes.
Number 2, law breaking that may be annoying or scary for others, but is mostly a danger to the cyclist. This includes riding for long distances on sidewalks or against traffic on main streets and riding at night without lights. These behaviors may be due to fear of sharing the road with drivers, the mistaken belief that riding into oncoming traffic is safer, or lack of money to buy lights. 3, willfully inconsiderate or reckless riding that can terrify or endanger others. This includes hauling ass down crowded sidewalks, failing to yield to pedestrians and crosswalks, what the cane-using senior described, and mindlessly bombing red lights and stop signs in a way that forces drivers to hit the brakes to avoid a crash. Those are the points. But these aldermen only want to ticket drivers. They don't want to propose any else. You know what it is, guys? They should propose equal enforcement to motorists as well as bicyclists.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Just, have a combined reckless driving policy.
And they're not going, and they haven't, and they're not going to. And that's what concerns me, is that it seems like it's a very one-sided argument. I've cited some of these concerns with safety with bicyclists in the past on social media, and suddenly it's a gangbang against Jerry. How dare you? Why don't you? It's about health. It's about fitness. It's about what do you want to pollute the environment with your car? No, it's not what it's about. It's about holding an equal standard across both sides, as it should be.
I think you meant dog pile.
Dog pile. Sorry. Yeah. So, guys, I've
The
said enough.
chat's gonna get a laugh out of that when they realize what you just said.
Quoted the articles. Kit, what are your thoughts?
Look, we've built our infrastructure around the car. Other countries have effectively built areas in which bicyclists can coexist with vehicles. But in order to do something like this, it's a total teardown of everything that we have. What we're doing here in Chicago is backwards, and that is we're trying to integrate bicyclists and vehicles in an infrastructure that's already antiquated and outdated. What we need to do is a complete total teardown of how we do our public transportation, how we handle bicyclists, how we handle foot traffic, and how we handle vehicle traffic. And we've had politicians that have been kicking the can down the road and trying to give us, well, half-assed compromises that will not appease to anyone at any point in time. So what we're seeing here is just a compromise that will cause further problems. The real solution is construction work. What we have to do is do public works, and that is a total teardown of what is present before us. Now that will cause problems, but hoping to rebuild off of an infrastructure that's already antiquated is a fool's notion.
I think a starting point, though, Kid, is that since we're giving the streets to bicyclists, I think that they should be registered the same way that motorists are. Is that unreasonable? They're not paying. They're not paying for using the commons that way as drivers are, but they're demanding more attention, less responsibility. I just think it's a very imbalanced system, especially at the cost of what you just described and how our infrastructure was not designed for this. It's caused more congestion, and it seems most cyclists just keep demanding more and more out of a sense of entitlement than actually like following the rules of the road the way everyone else does. So Kathy wrote, and I don't understand why you say I'm a dreamer here when I'm actually proposing some potential solutions like, I don't know, registering bicyclists and making them pay for bicycling license the way that cars are expected to pay for city stickers or license plates across the city. Ilharner shares, Jerry may be a dreamer, even one might say so. I didn't see the last part of that. Thank you, Ilharner. Okay, all right, let's get rid of that. I thought that you were
By the
going
way, shout out to Case Study QB. We see him in the house here as well.
Yeah.
Be sure to support Case Study QB on Twitter. He's doing phenomenal work.
Okay, let's jump to what JR says. Not unreasonable, especially for electric vehicles. I wish they'd get off the sidewalks. All right, so going into our – thank you for that, Kit. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unwrap there, and I do think that I don't think that the solution is to like start ticketing motorists if you're not going to equally enforce the law to bicyclists. Because you know what? Honestly, I think this is – sorry to say – I hate having to use this word because I thought it was a word that was primarily something used by the right all the time, and I am not right. But I do think there's a lot of virtue signaling in this to appeal to voters. We're going to ticket cars, bicyclists. We're going to penalize motorists. Okay, and how are you going to hold the bicyclists equally accountable since they're using traffic lanes and are expected to follow the laws the same way? Well, they're not going to do anything about that. That's where there's a disconnect, and that's why I suspect that this whole point about wanting to fine and ticket cars has more to do with revenue generation and virtue signaling by our politicians, our aldermen that are proposing this. All right, so speaking of aldermen, and I didn't even plan that segue, how about this? Interesting. Our alderman, Walter Burnett, softened stance on affordable housing after the cash flowed to him. In Chicago, with aldermen changing their positions to benefit their constituents after money's donated to them, say it isn't so. This is reported by David Jackson of the Better Government Association and Rachel Hinton of the Better Government Association. Lynn Cox recalls the day in 2016 when she and her daughter were told they'd have to vacate their apartment in Old Town's Atrium Village. They were swept out to make room for a glittering new luxury high-rise Cox simply couldn't afford. In Cox, 55 remembers the broken promises made to tenants by their new Canadian landlords and their city council representatives. Kathy Powers, I'm going somewhere with this. Alderman Walter Burnett of the 27th Ward long touted a champion of affordable housing. The tenants of Atrium Village were told they could remain in their community and move into new, nicer affordable units in the rising glass spires. They showed us pictures of how things would be, which was awesome. Cox said Burnett was basically making the statement that we could move into better housing and it would be better for the community. They just plain out blatantly lied, Cox said. I just feel done wrong. It's almost numbing. An investigation.
Canadian landlords.
An investigation by the Better Government Association shows how a powerful builder deployed money and clout to recast an entire Chicago neighborhood while long-standing renters say they were abandoned by their aldermen. Burnett went from publicly criticizing the developer Omni Group in 2015 for trying to wine and dine its way out of its affordable housing obligations to berating colleagues at a 2018 zoning meeting after they tried to slow the project over tenant allegations of unfair treatment. This is my ward, Burnett pointedly told one alderman who voted against Omni's plan at the time. You're stepping too far. Don't get involved in this. Burnett's accommodation to Omni coincided with an influx of cash from the developer to people close to the alderman, a BGA examination of government records found. In 2015, Omni hired Mazone Mays Jackson, Burnett's friend and political consultant, to lobby Burnett, eventually paying Jackson $417,500. Omni also pledged $25,000 over 5 years to a charity run by Burnett's wife, Chicago Housing Authority official Darlena Williams Burnett, and in 2020 donated $11,000 to a political action committee she chairs. One of Jackson's first reported actions on Omni's payroll was to organize a fundraiser for Burnett. After litigation and years of City Hall meetings, Omni eventually agreed to include the affordable units, but grouped nearly 70% into a 1970s brick mid-rise that still stands in the shadow of 3 other luxury towers, a practice tenants decried as a throwback to segregation. Jackson declined to answer questions or agree to be interviewed for this report. Now, as I mentioned Kathy Powers earlier, what does this have to do? Well, what this has to do with the larger issue that we see in our neighborhoods across the city is I suddenly lost track of the word. Oh boy. The word for guys, I think I'm getting Alzheimer's.
Corruption.
That's all right. Don't worry.
No, not corruption. The neighborhoods selling to developers and
gentrification.
Gentrification is the topic I'm wanting to talk about here. Oh my God! I think I need to see a doctor. This is happening way too much. I'm starting to get concerned. Anyway, this article about Burnett has to do with the larger issue of gentrification we see across the city. And also in regards to a story that has been shared with me a couple times by Kathy Powers, one of our viewers in the live chat, regarding what's also happening in Uptown, regarding the Weiss Hospital and the appropriation of this property by a large developer that decided to sell the parking lot to developers for more high-rise housing while they claim there's going to be some affordable units. Let me read this article and then I'll segue into what I want to talk about in regards to gentrification, that word that for some reason I couldn't connect with, as I think is happening in Burnett's ward that I just shared with you. Neighbors ask Weiss Hospital's new owner to help stop luxury apartments, but executives say it's out of their hands. Uptown community members want Weiss Hospital's prospective new owner to undo a controversial move by its former owner. Similar stuff here. Selling a hospital parking lot to a luxury apartment builder. Executives with Resilience Healthcare are seeking regulatory approval to take over Weiss Hospital. Those officials held a meet and greet with community members Thursday at Weiss to present their vision for improving the medical center. But many community members and activists were more focused on plans to build a 314-unit apartment complex at the parking lot at Wilson Avenue and Marine Drive. California-based Pipeline Health bought Weiss in 2019. In separate deals, the company sold the hospital parking lot to Lincoln Property Development to build the apartments, and it is trying to finalize the sale of the medical center to Resilience. Now, let's also keep in mind, this is a medical center in Uptown. It might not be the best medical facility in the city, But they want to get rid of the hospital.
And take away the parking.
Yes. Now, let me also jump, though, into something. I found this article, and I was reminded of it because Kathy had sent it to me also. But I was following this in Reddit, and someone had posted this article in Reddit also, the Blog Club Chicago article. And here's some of the comments from Reddit that I just thought were like really myopic and short-sighted. One specifically that I actually responded to. Here it is. Neighbors ask someone to control something they don't own. I get they don't like what's happening, but they're literally going to the company that owns one property and asking them to do something about a property a different company already purchased. These people clearly do not know how affordable housing even works. And they're talking about the community members who are complaining about this. As new buildings come up, the older ones depreciate and lower in price, making them more affordable. New construction has always been more expensive than old, to which I responded in Reddit. By your own definition regarding the expenses related to new construction, that would then probably force other property owners to sell for newer construction to make ends meet and less affordable housing. Do you know what the word gentrification means, which I forgot a moment ago? And shouldn't all housing be affordable? Well, here's what this knucklehead responded. What? If landlords don't like free market competition to their old shithole buildings, they can move to communist China. There's no market competition there. And then someone else responded, gentrification results when there's a housing shortage. Natural churn of housing stock is good, or you would rather be living in a tenement house with lead paint. No. These are people that are clearly out of touch with what it costs to live in Uptown and what it's going to cost to live in Uptown.
They don't put lead in paint anymore.
No.
So
that's true too.
I mean, that's kind of an old comment there.
And they relate to the people in Uptown as NIMBYs, not in my backyard. That's not what this is about. I don't think. And we know how Kappelman has encouraged gentrification and development in Uptown in a way that is displacing residents who can't afford to live there anymore for his developer friends. So yeah, I just think that it's the neighbors, I think, were very quick to follow what was going on before it's finally gotten to this point. And I think a lot of people expected that this was going to happen. This isn't about the fact that the hospital even needs another parking lot. I think that they've got underground parking. But
they do. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think they do. I think as I was researching this, I remember somebody saying
that's different. I mean, my first thought at reading this article earlier today was they're gonna revamp the hospital, but they weren't gonna give people parking. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense.
I could be wrong, and I know who's going to know in the live chat. Kathy, do they have an underground parking lot there? Hopefully she'll respond in a moment.
They might, I think.
Yeah. Well, she did say that we asked them to buy the parking lot back, and we want the location. The former owner is Pipeline. Well, the issue here with the parking lot isn't as much. I don't think it's as much about the parking lot serving the hospital as much as it is more gentrification of the neighborhood. And I think that that's what residents are concerned about in Uptown.
So she says no. So no underground parking.
Okay, so there's no underground parking lot. Okay, so I was wrong. Sorry, I'm glad that you corrected me. That's what we rely on our viewers to help us with.
That's a fair point, Kathy. Although I don't know how many old buildings with lead in them still exist. I think, most of them have been remediated at this point. But yeah, I take your point that there may still be some out there.
So between Burnett selling out his residents in his neighborhood for gentrification and Weiss Hospital's developers selling out citizens in Uptown, it's very well stated in the chat. This goes nationwide. Greed is very powerful. The article goes on to say, despite substantial community opposition, city officials approved a rezoning of the parking lot last summer to allow for the 12-story apartment building. Lincoln Property is awaiting a building permit for the project. So you got a hospital with no parking lot. You've got luxury housing going in that's probably not going to be affordable for people around it, which is going to probably force other building owners to sell. and allow more gentrification and more, expensive high-rise housing in that neighborhood, displacing residents who've lived there probably for a lot of their lives. Hoping there's still time to thwart the controversial project, neighbors asked Resilient CEO Manoj Prasad to buy the parking lot back from Lincoln Property or try to avoid the sale of the land. It is unclear how much leverage Resilience might have to intervene, and company officials said blocking the sale is not within their grasp. We have to understand how much bitterness there is over the destruction of affordable housing in this community, neighbor Paul Siegel said. Obviously, community hospitals are an endangered species. The fate of community hospitals are absolutely bound up in the fate of the community they serve. This is an endangered community. So when we hear the knuckleheads on Reddit who don't live in Uptown identifying residents in Uptown as NIMBYs, not in my backyard, and claiming that, what was it again? God, just the stupidity just like literally feels like it's emanating from my browser. With this one guy, what was his comment? Go back to communist China or something? Anyway.
Yeah, that's an ignorant comment.
Yeah. Who doesn't know what it's like to live in that neighborhood to begin with, or how expensive it's becoming for people.
Or
who are
how
displaced.
communism works.
Right. Thank you. So, Kit, your thoughts? Any thoughts?
I mean, say about Chicago and gentrification and politics and buildings being used. We got to stop these luxury apartments, these condos being built. Who can afford to live in them at this point?
Well, there are condos everywhere. I mean, it's like development is all over. And I think I posed this question in a prior show. Who can afford to live in all these new developments? I mean, older housing should be properly maintained. There's no question about that. But when you see all these other luxury high rises going up everywhere, it's like, and they're empty. I would imagine that they're mostly empty, or a lot of them are empty. And then it's destroying the neighborhoods and where people can't afford to live.
Agreed.
But hey, at least we have new ERs opening up to price gouges to death. Okay, Kathy, there's so much more. Go ahead and email me what the so much more is, and we can follow up on it again. But I thought that between the two stories that I just shared with Burnett and what's happening in Uptown, there's definitely an air of gentrification to pay attention to here across many neighborhoods. All right, so did you guys see this? Let me bring it up.
This hot bitch, look at Lori, hot bitch. What you want? Come on, cause you better fuck her right, cause I will fuck her to death. Yo, I'ma have, she got a big dick, all right. What's up, Lori? What you want? What's up? You fucking me tonight? You fucking me too?
If you don't want to get roasted, you don't go to Wiener Circle, especially not if you're a public official, because they don't pull any punches. Mayor Lightfoot gets roasted at the Wiener Circle. A video shows Mayor Lori Lightfoot stopping by Wiener Circle and taking her dinner with a side of verbal beef. The Wiener Circle is famous for hurling insults at its customers, and it made no exception for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I applaud them and salute them. A video posted by Chicago Media Takeout shows Lightfoot stopping by the hot dog stand over the weekend to grab a bite. That's what she said. And instead, getting an earful. Lightfoot and Chicago's First Lady, Amy Eshelman, are seen laughing and nodding as a cashier greets them and makes jokes. She's got a big D, all right, the cashier says. Another employee says, biggest D in the city. The comments referenced a lawsuit filed last month, which we're still waiting to follow even further, against the city by a former Park District attorney who alleged Lightfoot berated staff during a discussion about the controversial Grant Park Columbus statue. Lightfoot told city workers, we know what she said. Lightfoot is denied making...
I have the biggest dick here, Jerry.
Right.
I have the biggest dick.
So I don't want to hear anybody complaining about my potty mouth anymore when we just heard how the Wiener Circle people decided to confront the mayor. Lightfoot is denied making the comments cited in a lawsuit. The Wiener Circle at 2622 North Clark Street has long been known for having employees mock and harass customers who are in on the joke. But the Wiener Circle wasn't Lightfoot's only stop over the weekend. North Halstead's Roscoe's Tavern shared an image on its Instagram story of the mayor visiting the popular LBQT bar. LGBTQ bar. I missed a couple of letters. The mayor's office could not immediately be reached for comment. So I thought that was amusing. Oh, there she is.
I had the biggest wiener there, over there at that hot dog spot. They weren't big enough.
It's a non-story, Jerry. It's complete fabrication. It's a non-story. It didn't happen. Don't believe your lying eyes.
Jerry, hold on to that clip.
Total lie.
Because
seriously.
I'm not letting go of that clip, Kit. That clip is staying in the StreamYard library. It's staying in the StreamYard library. Trust me. Live chat, Ilhanar. Yes, hug the troll. It leads to penis enlargement. Yes, I like this, Miguel H. If only her accomplishments were as big as her dick.
What? Miguel H, don't forget yours your homework assignment. You still got to make the district of the city of Chicago jigsaw puzzle.
All right, guys. So that's my little end to the show here to give everybody a good chuckle before we depart. Anything to share, Kit, as always, from Hardlands Media, from the world of Hardlands Media?
Well, from the world of Hardlands Media, we got some big stuff happening. I know that we have a team meeting that's going to be happening over this week. So obviously, Jerry, I'll talk to you about that after the live stream. But there's so much good that's happening. I'm really excited about it. Plus, I am in the works of having a very important guest on our show. I won't reveal who they are, but it will be very thought-provoking and definitely relates towards Medicare for all. So I'll see what happens if we can get this person on our show. But seriously, shout out again to all of independent media. And again, shout out to Chicago Corner. Shout out to you, Jerry and Edward, for really leading this channel. I'm really happy to be part of it.
I think it's our pleasure. Can I speak for you too, Ed?
It is a pleasure to have joined you this evening on Chicago Corner, airing Tuesday and Friday evenings, whether Lori Lightfoot likes it or not.
Yeah, and also shout out to Case Study QB. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be.
Now Case Study QB. I was trying to follow the comments in the chat. Are they identified as Case Study QB over here?
Case Study QB on Twitter. He is the one.
Oh no, I meant in our live chat. What did he?
Yeah,
did they?
Same one on Twitter.
Okay.
Case Study QB is the individual who all independent media owes a heavy debt of gratitude because he's somehow sitting through corporate media, getting those clips, and yet Twitter has the audacity to censor him and say that his Twitter page is so offensive, but yet all that he's clipping and showing there are clips from Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. But apparently Twitter is basically confirming what we all know. Corporate media is fake news.
Yep. No big news flash there. All right, gentlemen. Thank you again for joining me tonight. To my viewing audience, again, as always, thank you for joining us tonight. Please, as we go through the week and compile more news stories to return to report to you on Friday, be safe, stay vigilant, watch out for each other, be safe. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you will hear about it here on Chicago Corner. So stay safe, everybody, and have a good night. We'll see you all on Friday.